And we're live. Welcome to the Gordox Pub, where we use rejection letters like coasters. There you go.
And coasters like rejection letters.
Yeah. Although I got some positive news, I suppose, about writing today. So I've already been paid for it, I think, but
Crap.
this guy pays up front, but it wasn't much. But the anthology that, hi, Creative Faye and Turtles. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, actually, Turtles has been here before as well, right?
I don't remember.
I seem to think that that's the case.
Okay. Well, I have some positive news, which I still can't share, but at least not online. All I can say this: the anthology that I sold a story to appears to be going. I've seen the cover now. Can't share the cover. Can't say what it is yet, but hopefully next week I can. Well, you know how it. Like I've had I sold a story once, and then I'm pretty certain the publication went out of business. And it was a pretty good paying one, and I was a little kind of grumpy because they kept kind of stringing me along, and it was like, all right, it's been a year.
I do know how it is. I'm regularly selling author, and
Yeah,
and it's not regularly getting printed.
yeah. Creative Faye, yes, Turtles is on Twitter or on Twitch, not Twitter. Twitch. Sorry. Wildly different platforms.
Someone stopped in during the last stream.
Yeah.
And they were like, I thought this was a chill stream, but the music's like making me feel like I walked into a fight scene. And I'm like, you think this music is not indicative of a chill stream? You should hear my regular music. And it was like, it was just one of them on this particular mix, so you know it's not a super fast or heavy.
Right.
And it was like it was like anxiety beat or something like that, and I'm like, wow.
Right.
You don't listen to me.
Well, if they're looking at that lo-fi stuff, the ambient music, that kind of stuff, it's like, well,
I don't know. Maybe I'm improperly using chill stream. I just thought we weren't debating, or all I'm doing is just drawing and listening to some background music. This is the music that was anxiety ridden. This right here, these drums. I'm like, I've heard faster beats on Fred Flintstone when he was bowling.
Oh, goodness. Oh. Yeah. That's old. Yeah, so my adventures in live streaming have been rather pathetic and sad as of late, but
You're being silenced. Your voice is being silenced.
yeah, something like that. Except for it's not. So that was the worst part. Like I had a parent was like, "So you're going to be live streaming? They can get stuff open tonight, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the plan." And then I had to send back, "Yeah, I'm not allowed to live stream for 24 hours," which sounds like I've like advocated for something that you're not allowed to advocate on YouTube or something. And I'm just like, "Oh God, this is going to be
Like
terrible."
you broke the rules or something.
Yeah,
you got a ban, temporary ban.
I did not know that I had rules that I had to follow. I mean, I just didn't know I had to wait.
Well, it's really weird. Like until you reach 50 followers, you have to stream with the camera set up. But after you reach 50 followers, you can just, use your phone and stream from anywhere. I I think that's kind of stupid. Like, why wouldn't you be able to?
Well,
Because if they want more views and they want more content, why wouldn't they let you stream from your phone anywhere at any time? Like, why would they
yeah,
limit
I
your
don't.
content if they want more content? It seems
I don't know.
unethical.
I have a small, tiny little channel that's pretty much just for educators. There's a program called Moodle that is a workhorse that I advocate for. I think it's wonderful. Um, but I've set up videos so parents can see how to check grades and stuff like that. And some of the assignments that I give my students are locked, and I've been trying to learn OBS so that Rich and I might be able to switch off of paying StreamYard. And so I thought, oh, I could set up a live stream that would allow me to know, oh, so you're like, let's say Creative Faye, you were one of my students, you needed the opening assignment from 10:22 open. And I could be like, oh, sweet, no problem. Because they're timed and I got to know when you're going to work. And I could have done that. That's what I was planning on doing, but it just told me, nope, you have to wait 24 hours after requesting live stream access. Okay. So, like, I don't push that channel here because it's not exactly the same thing. Plus, this is Rich's channel.
Yeah, but that's not a big deal because I pretty much let everybody share their links or whatever anyway.
True. It's a different mission. So,
Yeah, I mean, but still, if you wanted to do it, like that whole reads across the nation or something like that,
right.
and that's not our mission, but I think it's a good cause, and I'm backing it. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
yours is a good cause as well, so I would back you, just like hopefully you would back me.
Yeah, I just I don't know.
As a matter of
It's
fact,
also
I
because
think
this
you've
one's not
given.
labeled for children, and the other site is for children.
Yep.
So it's just one of those things.
And that might be because of your setting. That might
Right.
be part of the reason that you're limited as well.
Yeah, I thought about that later on. I was like, I wonder if they're not letting me because I say this is for children, because it is. Students can look up how
Well, if you look at the categories, for children generally means specifically for little kids.
well, maybe I should turn it off.
So you might want to look into the definition of it even more, because I didn't have to worry about that because I'm not specifically for little kids. We try to keep the content as well as we can to a realistic medium on the profanity, but once in a while we let loose, right? So
occasionally. Creative Faye, I have not read any new books or I haven't read anything new since Berserker. And as for comics, I just haven't had time yet.
which Berserker?
Hold on, I don't think that's actually the name of the book. It's the one by
Keanu Reeves.
And Keanu Reeves. And
yeah, that's Berserker. But there's a Berserker that's spelled with the E's, and that one's they've disavowed it.
This is called the Book of Elsewhere. And I was disappointed in it. The stuff that I really like from China Mayville just didn't feel like it was there. So,
Well, it's probably because it's Keanu Reeves' story.
yeah, it could be. I don't know. So, you know, you can't always have a number one hit.
Well, that and some writers do better with prose than comics.
Yeah.
And I've
That's a
noticed
book.
that.
But
What's that?
it is a book. I mean, it's prose.
So it's a novel?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's different. So that's not a comic then.
Right. Well, she said reading books/comics. I have not read any books, which is
'cause
stupid
we
because
are-
I have that subscription thing. I could be reading them all the time.
We often call comics books as well.
That's true.
I just finished a book, that mystery, it's actually set in, not Victorian, but it's like 1920s, but they still use horse and buggy in London. It's like they have some motor cars, but they don't trust them very much. And there's a whole big mystery there. And actually, it's a pretty good book. I did not like the end because the end felt like it was rushed. Like this is definitely where it was leading to, but like he was trying to get it out, like trying to get that end there so that he could get it out and published or whatever. And it felt like there's characters that were missing that suddenly appear, and I don't remember reading them appearing until they're tied to danger.
Oh.
But as the main character approaches that danger and it's the climax, if they were there, you'd think that even if they were gagged, you would hear them struggling because they hear people approaching, right?
Right.
So that was kind of a fault of it for me. I didn't like that. But other than that, I mean, it read pretty good, and I'm predisposed, I guess, to like a certain amount of, I don't know, it almost felt a little steampunkish, a little like the steampunkish Sherlock Holmes. Even though it was in the 1920s, it was really set up like one of those types of books. So it was good. And then it was on Kindle because it was an advanced reader's copy. And the formatting was atrocious. Like the first paragraph of every chapter had the first letter of the first word on one line and then the rest of that on the next.
That makes it fun. Creative Face said that some writers do better writing screenplays than prose.
Yes, because screenwriters are taught different strengths. Screenwriters are generally taught to use dialogue. So it's actually a lot like writing comic books where you're writing like cut to instead of your caption. So you'll like write cut to, and then it's a brief description, and it's like the directors and cinematographers are going to go from there. So it's all about nailing the dialogue. And generally, when you're reading a screenplay, the rule of thumb is that it's every page is a minute. So if there's 100 pages, it's 100 minutes. I was going to jump into the next page, but I realized two things that were wrong with that idea.
Uh-oh.
Well, the first thing was that I hadn't colored the dark parts around the frame of the opening. And then I need to put some things and details in the piping to tell that it's piping and not just weird white lines, right? That's mostly that. I don't mind his head extending beyond the panel. It's a little bit of bleed. Um, the other problem was that I hadn't read that page, and then when I read it just a little bit ago, because Eli was begging me to. He's like, I help you set up for the stream and all this other stuff, and promptly fell asleep. Like deep sleep in his chair, and he was really cranky, so it was a really good thing that he went to sleep in his chair. But so I was expecting him to do his normal shtick and be all like, "It's time, Dad. It's like 7:42," because I usually head over here about quarter kill so I can get all this stuff set up and maybe make sure pencils are sharpened, and then I have references, so I don't have to dig for every reference I could possibly need. Sometimes, yeah, references don't feel adequate, but sometimes they do.
So Creative Face said that she was making a job at Keanu Reeves writing because I said the story disappointed me, and yeah, the plot's fine. It's just
Keanu didn't write it.
well, I don't know. It's something.
Well, yeah, but Keanu didn't write it because what good? He might have plotted it, but China Mayville's the writer. He's like a published writer, well known.
Yeah, but there was some of it I just thought, I don't think China Mayville wrote this part. Like, that's literally how different some of the prose is. So
I won't say it's not possible, but I don't think it's likely that you bring in somebody like China Mayville, whatever
it is,
and not utilize his skills, right?
I would hope not.
Why would you want to do that?
Although I can't imagine. That's the funny part. I can't imagine working with him because I don't know what I would bring to the table. That's literally how I feel about his writing normally. Normally I read his stuff and I'm just like,
I would say human characters.
Okay. Maybe that's
because pretty much most of the characters that I read are really quirky and weird and not really human. At least I haven't had a whole lot of experience, but what I've read, they're kind of like Lovecraftian, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really had a hard time with him opening the book with a date with 2 mollusks. Like, what?
Yeah.
It really stopped me, honestly, because I'm like, what? I can't do this.
Perdido Street Station, yeah, it took me a while to... His Kepri, that's what it... And they're like, got scarab heads. They're humans with beetle-like heads. And,
I thought, like, in the beginning, he actually was saying that it was 2 mollusks on a date.
Yeah. See,
that's what my problem was. I'm like, I can't relate to a mollusk.
Right. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, it took me a minute, and I'm glad I got through it because I like the Boss Log series. But yeah, it's got a learning curve to it. A lot of his stuff does.
If you can call it that. Like, yeah, and the only book that I ever fully read of his was Kraken.
Oh yeah.
And it was all right. I didn't think it was anything great. It felt like a cross between Neil Gaiman and H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
And while I like Lovecraft's ideas, his prose is really kind of hard to get through.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about Neil Gaiman. Some of his stuff I like, some of his stuff I don't like. So I go from one extreme to another. Got to be careful because it's going to pick up every bit of pencil.
Yeah.
And this is the one time I just don't happen to have a bunch of paper towels next to me. Or a bunch of paper towels I could use for this purpose. Yeah, so I at least read one book that I liked, and I finished an audio book and picked up like one of the last Bernard Cornwell books that I haven't read. I've got the hardback, but these days hardbacks are kind of hard for me to read, so the weight.
Creative Faye, the Creative Faye said, "What mollusks don't have feelings too? Speciest." And yes, I am too. I am
Okay,
speciest.
you know. I'm sure they do have feelings, especially when the world's fastest shrimp pierces their fucking shell and sucks them out. The feelings don't last long, but I'm sure they have them.
That's like that thing about they did some study that lobsters feel pain if you throw them in boiling water. Like,
Yeah, that was crap. They didn't study it. They said they're yelling, but they're not yelling. That's the air escaping their fucking shells.
well, whatever. I was just
People
like,
in Maine have known about that since 1772.
I just thought it was funny.
Actually,
I was
earlier.
like, we're killing it, right? Like that's kind of the whole point. We're gonna kill it, and I don't know many species that really like to die. So
Yeah, but they're not yelling. They don't have mouths. They don't yell like that. Like, I mean, they have mouths, but they don't have vocal cords and all that. They don't yell.
Yeah.
It's literally their insides are liquid. Like, all of their muscles and everything are liquid. And then when you cook them, that becomes hard, and that creates air in the shell, which, they live underwater, so they don't have air. And that air whistles out. It sounds like screaming. The only people that it bothers are PETA.
well, I was at this restaurant. It's one of my favorite restaurants in my town, and it's this little diner. It's a King Eros, so it's a franchise technically, but it's owned by this Greek guy, and we tend to call
Euro?
him. Yeah,
Euro? Greek? No.
yeah, I know. So I remember I was there. It was like a summer day or something, and this gaggle of blue hairs walk. Well, that dates me. This gaggle of older women came in, and it was so exotic to them. I was like, oh god. And so one of them orders a euro. I think she called it a gyro, which whatever. I'm not.
Yeah, my old lady does that too, and I keep telling her Euro.
Yeah. So
She calls minestrone. I'm like, it's more fucking minestrone.
So I'm there, and then as I'm leaving, this lady starts complaining because she can see the spit in the back of the kitchen. Where they shave the meat for the gyros.
Because that's the way they cook it. The lamb.
Yeah, but it's on a vertical spit. It spins.
Yep.
and she's just mortified. You just have meat just out. It's like, what do you expect, lady? Ugh. So whatever. My
No,
family and I
it's in the
just
back room. No, it's in the back room. It's not just out. You try to grab, I smack your hand.
Yeah. Part of me would love to have a spit like that. I would never buy one for myself, but man, I would enjoy owning one. I'd
Right?
be like that all the time. Like, I think it's delightful. I'd make chicken like that too. You could put like the tacos, the street tacos they have. They're great. Is that your eraser?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was trying to figure out what it was because it kind of looked like a Bic. And I'm like, surely he's not sharpening a pen. I mean.
Nope, I'm putting an angle on my eraser so I can get a finer line with it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I just, when I couldn't tell what it was because I could only see the tip and not the back end of it. And I was like, what the heck is.
Yeah, that's the long way of sharpening a pen. I've got an electric sharpener right over here.
Oh, goodness. Fun times. Man. So, I feel kind of bad, but today the school had to cancel because we didn't have any power to the buildings.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, which I was like, when it was 2-hour delay, I was like, all right, cool. Like, because I was so cold, I wanted to go into I was like, I'll get dressed and go to work because warm. For that fine inking, sharpen your pen. Yeah, creative pen. So, finding out they had no heat, because I'm like, like 2-hour delay. I was like,
nib, right?
well, they also have showers there. I mean, like, I could have gotten prepared there and in warmth, or I could do it here and froze myself to death. I mean, just so whatever. But finding out they had no power was terrible. And they're like, it's an e-learning day. I'm like, oh, like people brought their devices home because they don't bring them home mostly. At our school, they haven't put them back in chargers. So I was like,
you mean what?
What?
Oh, I was kidding. I said, by you learning, you mean what?
Yeah. And then, like, I was looking on my phone. That's the only reason why I got anything. And I'm like, I'm not setting up classes on my phone, which is a pain in the butt, just to have them not do it because they don't have devices. And I certainly can't stream like I can't. I don't have
no power.
Any way of getting on there. So whatever. I mean, I felt kind of guilty, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not my fault. I'm sure my students will come. I'm sorry, I couldn't do yesterday's assignment. I'll be like, well, okay. There wasn't one.
So you know what that means.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make it up.
I got a student right now. He gets real anxious over stuff.
If I make it up, I mean create it.
Yeah. But like, I don't know what experience he's had in the past, but it's like he thinks I'm just gonna twist in the wind or something. Like, like he's always trying to rush ahead, and I'm just like, well, when I get to it, whatever work it is, I'll get to it. So a lot of times somebody like, I can't do this assignment yet. What's the password? I haven't told you the password. Right, what is it? Well, when I'm ready to give it out, I'll tell you. Well, how am I supposed to do it? Like, well, obviously you got your underwork done ahead of time. I think it'll be okay with the amount of time I give you on this assignment too. It'll be okay. Great thing I teach English. Or until the AI takes over and there's no point in it anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, there are clues.
My bosses sent an email with this video from 60 Minutes with Khan Academy. And I'm like, first off, Khan Academy, if I understand correctly, doesn't have to worry about state standards. Like they do, but they don't get judged on them. Like it's a perfect business model. They're not responsible for student outcomes. So you just make sure to penalize schools as much as possible so that they have to pay for these products that aren't responsible. They don't guarantee results. So, and then they just say, well, it's the teacher's fault.
Of course they do.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it works. And they're talking about this AI teaching assistant that Khan Academy has built. And parts of it, yep, sure, cool. But a lot of it, I'm just like, yeah. You're telling students, for the most part, they really don't have to write much on their own. And your AI help, while interesting, it's based off of what? Like, I've seen AI give advice on writing, and I'm like, not that good. Well, thanks, Creative Faye. I can't say I always enjoyed my English classes, but I did well in them, so.
I mostly did, yeah.
I mostly did too. I mean, in the end, I was one of those kids that quickly realized, when I go home, I'm limited to my brother and 2 other neighbors. That was it. That was my social circle. At school, I got lots of people to talk to, and quickly realized that this idea of hating school is kind of dumb. But
well, I'm not saying that I liked school. I liked English and I liked history, but
see, I was never big on social studies. I just never, which is funny because government econ, I blazed through that thing. That was easy. But and I did well in those classes. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I picked up several of them in college. But I just I don't know. If it's a time period that I'm interested in, because I want to write about something, then I find history classes interesting. But if I don't want to write about something, then I'm like, I don't care.
Well, you see, I think that the main issue there is that you said you didn't find social studies interesting, and neither do I. Like it's not the social studies about the history that's interesting. Like I could give a shit less, what the civilizations lived by so much as what they actually did, what they were thinking about, or what they thought should control people or should be the basis of something. It didn't necessarily resonate with me. I didn't care how the exchange rate of ancient Rome or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was interested in them having to disband when they reached the Rubicon.
By the way, Creative Faye said that she, like most of her classes, although math was one of her weakest subjects.
Yeah, math was not a good thing for me.
Well, I just find it funny that I'm looking at this stuff from this video that my boss sent out, and don't get me wrong, I'm deeply interested in AI and education. I find it, if we can figure out how to use the tool correctly, it's going to be amazing. However, I think there's going to be a steep learning curve with a lot of side effects that we have to figure out. But this video with this AI learning assistant, and I'm watching what they're doing, and I'm like, that's really cool, except for your state tests aren't going to let you use any of that. So you have to do it without the learning assistant, which is also true of the teacher. You have to be able to do it without the teacher when it comes time for the test. But when you've trained them to just ask the AI, although there are some teachers where you just ask the teacher and the teacher does it for you, and that's a problem too. But I don't know. I feel like our technology is outpacing our testing, making the test even more invalid. And
yeah, well, I don't think AI is a good thing right now anyway. So,
well,
Yeah.
I don't think we're putting that genie in the bottle, or back in the bottle. So.
Well, I think it can be put back in the bottle, but that's a different subject. Like right now, how many drones and mother drones were flying over New Jersey, and how many of them, if AI had access to them, would just open fire on people?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's also going to happen. I mean, at some point in time, I don't know if the AI is going to do it because the motivation seems lacking to me. But
Yeah.
they just don't have any motivation to do that. At some point in time.
Have you seen the video where they set up two AIs in a conversation about how to destroy the world?
Well, okay, but what's their motivation?
To destroy the world.
But again, what's the motivation?
It doesn't need a motivation. What's the motivation to write a story? It's a prompt.
Well, okay, except for...
So Bill Gates goes, well, my motivation is I want to cut down the human populace and their consumption.
Well, but that's not the AI's problem.
It is. I didn't say the AI's problem. It's our problem. But the AI would be a tool of that.
Yeah, but you'd also have an AI that would be there. You could say, stop this from happening, and you have that help too. So
maybe. Just because Asimov wrote the 3 rules doesn't mean that everybody's listening to him.
I guarantee you that they're not. That wasn't the argument. Argument is
but AI is the same thing that we're talking about. So why would AI stop? What's the motivation for them stopping?
Well, so are we talking about a singular AI or multiple AI? Because we have multiple already.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing, is that when you start that problem facilitating, and the object is to downsize the amount of resources that are being consumed by people, and you'd have to actually know that was the command to countermand, even if they would stop and obey somebody else.
See, that's the part where it's very important to not think of AI as a monolithic thing, but as there are multiple different forms of AI, and somebody can do exactly what you're saying. I am not going to argue that's not a threat. And the thought about Bill Gates doing it, I'm like, well,
Bill Gates is an example, and you know that's what I meant.
oh, I know. I completely understand where that comes from. Like
I'm also talking about like people that we wouldn't even know that are programmers that are behind all this stuff.
Yep, 100%. I 100% think that's possible. However, I also think you're going to have people with the exact opposite mentality, and again, it's a matter of, I guess, checks and balances. If one AI starts doing something, can you use another AI to combat it?
Yeah, but they're not, do they have the checks and balances, or are you just saying that?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, so you're arguing for the case, and it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but there is some fucking dirty shit that's been going on lately.
I agree.
And you've been catching people in that dirty shit. There's tons of drones out there. It's a scary amount of drones that are out there.
Well, I 100%.
And the FBI is denying knowing why these drones are literally flying over military bases and populations. They don't know who those drones belong to. That's there's a lot of scariness in that, and with AI. So if someone in China or whatever sets it into a mission, then we can't guarantee that that we can out anything it, right?
Well, same thing with nuclear weapons.
Yeah, but nuclear weapons cause a lot more destruction.
You're right.
There are also already a lot of missiles programmed that if a missile comes in range, they're going to automatically fire.
Oh.
So that's a little bit different than drones.
Okay. You're advocating for things that we have little control over.
I'm not advocating. I'm saying it's a cautionary tale.
Right.
I don't have the faith in AI or the programmers of AI that you apparently do. And that's all I'm saying.
Well, it comes down to, well, I think that there are definitely going to be bad actors that do bad things. I guess it comes back down to my basic Second Amendment argument. You know, if you're preparing for someone to be a bad actor, that means you have to be prepared to meet their force with your own. And if I'm smart enough to recognize that AI can be used for nefarious things, then I'm certain other people have figured out that AI can be used for nefarious things. And they're not going to fix it, I don't think.
I'm not saying you're not smart enough to figure it out, but what if you figured it out too late? What if this conversation's happening way too late? There's not going to be a fix that you can just suddenly come up with. But I just don't think, like, for as long as AI has been a thing and in development, I just don't think that it should be given free reign or free license for any reason. I don't think it's good for any reason. And in writing and drawing and stuff, it's only good for people that don't want to actually do the work and cheat and get stuff that they didn't do.
Well, I wouldn't, for most things like creative writing, I would agree with you. My look at it for students is, well, like, I got to teach students how to make a summary. All right, no problem. Overall, it's not that complicated. However, I don't know why you would ever need to write a summary anymore. Like, I don't know why anyone would ask you to write a summary anymore. Um, if someone doesn't have the time to read through something, so they just want a quick summary, they just put it in an AI and it spits it out. So why are we like this is a skill that is for most people going to never be used.
Unless you're a writer.
Well, that's great, but most of my students aren't going to be writers. It's just they're not, and so I just somewhat question this need a state standard on summary writing when okay, might as well have a state standard on how to dial a rotary phone. It's about as technologically valid as anything else. And
except for people don't need to use the rotary phone at all. Like there is reason to use summary, backs of books, for movies, elevator pitches. There's a lot of it's a lot of it's entertainment stuff, but still it's not invalid.
I didn't say it was an invalid thing.
For
there to be a state standard on it.
It's not the same as using a rotary phone.
Okay.
Because there's several iterations of phones between rotary phones and cell phones, and we don't even use any of them anymore. I just don't necessarily think that's a very fair comparison.
Okay, well,
so
I'm telling you now, the idea that we need summary is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, for a state standard, it's too old. I'm sorry, it's not a skill that most people really are gonna.
So why they teach it? Why did they teach it at all?
Well, again, I would question a lot of it. And this is what I mean by the technology is surpassing what we're asking. We have these standards that are archaic.
Yeah, I guess you missed what my question was.
Okay.
Why did they have it at all if it's not necessary for anything today? Why did it even exist?
That's not what I said.
No, I'm asking. I didn't say you said anything. I'm asking a question. I don't know where you're confused about that. I'm not making any statement. I'm asking you a question.
Okay, ask the question.
Why did they have it at all?
It's for a quick consumption of information.
Yes, but for what purpose? Like, I mean, what would they use it for? So that they had to have a state standard. I'm asking, what did they use it for that they had to have a state standard?
Because it was generally considered to be a skill where for example, the thing that they normally would say would be your boss wants you to go through whatever information and they want a quick summary of it. That's all they want because they paid for you to do this. And so they want a summary of it because they don't want to spend their time reading through it. However, now the boss wouldn't tell you to do that. The boss would go to whatever and say, ChatGPT, give me a summary of this. Boom. It's going to give them a summary of it. That's it. So
I guess I just don't know what situation you would do that for other than the situations that I was talking about. And I'm not trying to be an ass. I just don't understand. Like what they would use it for. Like, I don't know. Like I can understand the boss saying, what's the gist of this? But
the state standards aren't there for creative endeavors.
Well, yeah, but that's why I was asking what they used it for, if not a creative endeavor. And I'm not saying that there's not, or that there's a use other than creative endeavors now. I'm just saying what was the use that they did it for, because it doesn't make much sense if there's not something now that there would have been something before. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that works.
You get a report, and they say, great, here's this report. Give me a quick summary of it. And basically it's because the boss doesn't have time to read the report, so they paid you to read the report. Except for now, the boss doesn't need to pay you to read the report because they have ChatGPT, and boom, you can do it. So now I would argue there's no good reason for a state standard like that. Um, and it's here's another way of looking at it. When it comes to your English state standards, uh, none of them are content based. Like there is no book you have to read or stories you have to know. It's all generic things. So they want you to be able to, read something on the test and regurgitate some answers out. Maybe do some analysis. And analysis is fine, whatever. You should be able to read something and analyze it. Quite frankly, I think that if you can't summarize it, I kind of question what it is you're analyzing. But still, in and of itself, and the way it's going to be tested, is something that doesn't really fit with real life. Because writing a summary is not something that really needs to be done anymore. Whereas being able to summarize something so that you can use the argument later on, or you can use that information as part of a larger thing that you're creating, that would be great, except for it won't be tested that way. So you're going to have to teach a skill for a test that just doesn't exist or doesn't need to be taught because of the way it's going to be tested. And even then, some of the stuff that they're doing with the AI stuff, it's like, you run it through a reader. The reader says, well, you need more evidence here. Okay, fine. I need more evidence there. I mark. And then the evidence that they're going to go out and find, they're going to search. There's already a search feature on ChatGPT, and it'll give you citations and stuff. And I find it's kind of scary because I think it can pull stuff out of context and it can hallucinate things. But for quick and dirty and work, summarize my comments. Mark, I agree, but it's a Mark said, by the way, I shouldn't just agree with his argument. If no one has the skill to summarize, how will anyone know that the AI is summarizing well? And I suppose that would be were decisions based off of summaries fruitful or not, or they cost money. You'll see real-time market-based responses to, is the summary good? Will people be smart enough to see it? Probably not, but hey, that's what happened. And even like Notebook LM, I could take this entire, once this thing is posted on YouTube, I can ask Notebook LM, summarize this for me, and it will. Mark also said, but the market is not always the best determination of a good summary. Okay, but all that's going to be subjective. So the ones that tend to matter will be the ones that are market-based.
I guess we're kind of diverging a little because Brett's talking about the viability of teaching it in school. and I was asking about what it would be used for, outside of creative purposes like writing or, well, yeah, pretty much writing in one form or another.
Well,
No, I'm explaining what the conversation was that he walked into. So,
and creative AI, I don't disagree with you that summary is a good skill for analyzing data and critical thinking. However, uh, critical thinking can be done with any kind of information, and analyzing data is that's inherently what AI is for. Yeah, but Mark, I'm talking about. Okay, so Mark, 100%, you're right. Um, However, it's how it's going to be tested on, and they're going to give. This is how they test it. They give you a nonfiction piece, and that you have to read, which is something incredibly bland and safe because it has to go through all kinds of committees and whatnot, and make sure that you're sensitive to every possible person ever born or that ever will be born. And so you get these incredibly boring pieces. And then they're asked to write a summary of it. Um, and it can't be overly specialized. And so you are only going to be teaching students how to do a generalized summary. And a generalized summary, it's a skill the computer can do. I mean, you're basically arguing the same argument against spell check. Is spelling a good skill to have? Sure. And should students know how to spell? Sure. And if nobody knows how to spell, how do you know if it's spelled correctly? Yep. And yet, we still have spell check, and it still works. And this is just an evolution of that. Is generalized summary the building blocks for a more skilled and specialized summary? Oh. I wouldn't say so because if
you
you
didn't think this was going to be this big of a can of worms, did you?
on, if it's specialized summary, and you know what you're looking for, because you have the specialized skills and information, you can tailor the AI to find the specialized things. So, um, again, I don't think it's necessarily a valid thing. Um, and again, I'm not saying that it's a bad skill to have. I'm saying I don't know if it needs a state standard anymore, and it definitely shouldn't be tested the way it is because they keep telling teachers incorporate AI into education. So you're giving students a crutch, but then you're saying, but we're going to test you in a way where you can't use the tools that we trained you on. And we're going to pretend like the AI tool doesn't exist, much like they do on a math test where they say there are portions of it where you can't use a calculator because calculators don't exist. Rich, as far as being a can of worms, it's actually really useful because I have to go in front of a bunch of seventh graders and explain to them why they need to do summaries, and I have to have reasons. So, yeah, that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to start this big deal. I just was like legitimately asking, why was it important to teach in the first place if it's not important now? And
Oh, they always say because I mean the party line is normally, you'll be given information that you have to process and summarize for a group presentation, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, but if, I just know that there's a tool that will do most of that work for me, and uh, it's kind of like I think of it like percentages. Yeah, I know how to find percentages. I can do it by hand. My camera just adjusted itself. It's weird because I didn't do that. But anyway, uh, so I can find a percentage. My camera is adjusting itself. I'm not even moving. But anyway, I'm freaked out by the camera. I think we hand over.
it's fucking AI, dude. I'm telling you.
And to keep growing as a species, we need to hang on to our she got cut off. Ability to think. I agree. I 100% agree with that. I have no problem with that. I just think that people are going to be thinking differently.
You never know when we're going to be like in the American Cappadocians.
The what?
Hiding in caves.
Oh.
Cappadocia.
Yeah.
It's where the Christians hide in caves.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things that I also seriously wondered about from the video I saw. The teacher asked the AI for the lesson plan. I need a 4-day lesson plan over X. And it's like, why in the world would you say, I want a 4-day lesson plan over anything? Like, you should need a lesson plan, and it should take however long it's going to take. Like, if I have 4 days, I could say I have no more than 4 days. But especially if you're going to give over your thinking and creativity to the machine, at least let see if it comes up with something better than you would have. I don't know. I find it kind of weird for them to surrender the thinking. And yeah, what's better about that than just buying a curriculum and having it all scripted for you anyway? Because you had some semblance of control? I don't get it. So, yeah. I suppose it comes down to what you're there for, but I don't. I don't know. I just think we're at a juncture now where, again, my I remember my teacher saying you wouldn't walk around all the time with a calculator in your pocket. And lo and behold, we walk around all day long with a calculator in our pockets, and I don't want to be that, the person that tells them, you're not going to have access to AI 24/7 or something, because they're going to have access to AI 24/7. Um, and being able to recognize a good summary, yep, that's a valuable skill if you could do it, and being able to do, some things. I think. Well, I was thinking about this earlier. If I wanted to race with AI, short distances I win, long distances it wins. Um, for example, if I want to come up with an exercise for my students, and let's say I want them finding subordinating conjunctions, another useful skill that we teach. Um, so I could whip off a sentence real fast that has it, and say, what's the subordinating conjunction? This I could do that faster than AI, but I can't come up with 50 of them as fast as AI. So it's a matter of, also AI tends to make mistakes more than I do. But again, I'm not saying AI and surrendering your thinking over to AI is a good idea. I don't. I'm also just a realist and know people are going to use this, and they use it already. Mark said that doesn't work in the programming world yet, and I agree with the yet. AI can replace about the first 3 to 4 months of programming experience, but after that cannot match the learning and creativity of human beings. I would argue it probably can never reach the creativity of human beings, but well, yeah, but Mark, that's think of it. Oh, okay, if you say so. I guess in programming, the AI wins or the human wins long term, but a lot of stuff, the stuff that most people end up having to do, um, all the tedious stuff, I can do it faster in the short run, but AI will do it longer in the long run. Or will do it faster in the long run. Just like, why is it that you would ever have the AI do any summary? Well, because if it's long enough of a text, it can do it faster. If it's short enough of text, I don't know why you would. If you have the skills, but again, that's if it's short enough. I don't know why would. I don't know. Well, Mark, I wouldn't really presume to talk about programming. To be honest, I wouldn't know enough. And I am happy to defer to your expertise on that. That's why I was like, yeah, okay, if that's how it works, the program. Well, Mark, thank you for saying you don't have expertise in programming, but you have. I'm reading this for Jake because he can't read. Uh, I mean, you can read. I know you can. I'm just making fun of you. But I've been in the IT field for a long time and have some insights. Yeah, I would say that you have more expertise in the area than I do, then. So, um, I have no problem admitting that. I've played around with some of the AI programming stuff, and it makes me chuckle and laugh at how bad it is currently. So a lot of what you're saying is you reading experts in program and parroting their conclusions. Yeah, I've heard Martin Shoemaker's talked about that. He's a programmer by day, writer by night. And actually, he's a writer by car because he dictates while he drives. But
He's a dictator.
Yeah, he's a dictator. And then, well, even Kevin J. Anderson, was. I'm pretty positive he just was partially shilling an AI program for dictation. So he didn't have to send it in and have it transcribed. You could have the AI do it. And they said it was better than what Google Docs would do just by, you didn't have to speak in Dragonese or whatever they call it. I think that's what they call it, Dragonese, because of Dragon software. But I was like, oh, so yeah, some AI must be okay. But transcribing and understanding what people are saying into a microphone, making it up, and they're saying, well, AI's getting pretty good for that. I'm just like, there's a lot of stuff. I just see it.
I don't know if he's the best example to use, though.
Kevin J. Anderson?
Yeah, because
I could say lots of reasons. But
well, what I'm saying is that there are other ulterior motives for using AI with him.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Because AI cuts out the artists, it cuts out a whole bunch of stuff. And that's where the Superstars seminars, I don't know if that's what they're preaching because I haven't been there in years, but that seems to be what a lot of them, the graduates, are doing. They're crowdfunding, and they are not, they're not paying artists to do the art. So.
Oh, for their covers.
And how would they feel if the artists were like, well, we could do that too, and program the AI to write stories. And some AI, especially with short stories, can fool people. I've seen it done.
Well, part of me thinks there are some market things that might be. It's like if you could verify that something was human made versus AI made, like someone, and maybe that's us. We should do this. It's our plan. But basically, like a good housekeeping seal of approval, but it's human made seal of approval, and like even for art,
they would learn to duplicate it, and
maybe. But I think there are ways of
Terminator production.
I'm just saying, or like let's say I sell a book and I put a AI created cover on it. Okay, let's just say I do it. I'm a terrible human being. That's what I've done. Okay. Well, who's to say that I don't? If especially as a new author, not making money, that's the route I go because I don't have any money. Let's say that the series gets picked up. I have an opportunity there to republish the book with as a special edition with a human piece of art. Like it provides more value, I think, to the new book. Like I think.
You mean your second time making money off of it, you don't mind sharing the wealth with an artist, but the first time, fuck them.
That's the one way of doing it, but I'm saying, hey, I haven't done that. I paid for your art, thank you very much. So,
well, it wasn't available. There weren't no chat GBT. You wouldn't have had any hands.
By the way, I did get this. I haven't framed it yet, but in fact, I'm going to make my screen bigger just because.
I'm just coloring black anyway. We know you don't care.
Yep, I got to fix that. Yep. There's little Snarl right there. There's 𝕄𝔸𝕊𝔽𝔽. Rorn, Kyra. So, okay. But made by real human hands on stream. We know this is real. We know this is not AI.
Because nobody could AI video streams. Just saying. You know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you can eventually. But
I'm being facetious.
At some point, it's like, well, it's a cat and mouse game.
Yeah, Elon Musk was just releasing video that AI can completely do anything now. I mean, you can pretty much make your own movie if you want to. But that's the thing, is like the more that we rely on AI to do these jobs, the less people have jobs. Or they have to conform to working on AI or something like that.
Well, I'd actually argue that my bigger worry with that would be this is a nuanced argument. So please understand, I'm not trying to make a blanket statement. But I worry about AI being a lot like social media platforms, where if you have the wrong thought, you can't use it. And so it's the ultimate tool for censorship, because even art then gets censored. That is, I accept the.
So that's DEI.
Yeah. So
my initial DEI
is still forming, so I'm not trying to advocate a POV on it. However, I'd say the challenge of AI has proved to me that it's something.
What?
Summarization can manage a level of complexity I haven't seen yet. It'll be interesting. Oh. Well, tell you what, Mark. When I got to teach AI anyway, or not AI. I got to teach students. But I'll run some tests. I'll just, because like I did this earlier with, I was teaching writing, which some people could argue my same argument about teaching writing. But anyway, then I'm talking myself out of a job, and I don't like that. But
yeah, that's kind of been my point all along.
Yeah, I know. Well, trust me,
I don't want to relinquish control to it.
I'm scared of where things are going. So, but when I was teaching writing, I had some very specific instructions, like I give my students, based on the Jane Schaefer method, in case anyone wants to know. Anyway, and I went and I found Ohio has an interesting standard that actually mimics a lot of Jane Schaefer. So I took a standard from Ohio, copied it into an AI, ChatGPT, with the same kind of prompt I would give my students, and I said, "Here, do this." And it failed miserably. Now, was the essay serviceable? Yeah, it was. But did it really have everything I asked for? No. And I was on the top thing for Chat GPT, just trying to see if I, and I printed that off for my students. I showed it to them. I said, look, you can see this is my prompt. This is the result. Look, like it says we're supposed to have, there are things called chunks in the Jane Schaefer method. It's one piece of concrete detail followed by two pieces of commentary, and they're generally 3 sentences long. And each body paragraph should have 2 chunks. So that with the introduction or the topic sentence and the concluding sentence, you should have 8 sentences in your body paragraphs. That's roughly the template for a Jane Schaefer body paragraph. And the AI couldn't do it, or didn't do it. And so, I mean, if we're doing summary, I think I might run the same test. I'm going to give the AI the prompt and see how well it does. One thing I did notice with the Khan Academy stuff that started this whole conversation, you still had to know what a topic sentence was. Like it's like, hey, your topic sentence is weak. Well, if you don't know what a topic sentence is, you can't fix it. So those things are still things that still have to be taught, so that they know how to go forth. And there are a few things on summary, some tips that I think you can teach that are relatively quick, like, hey, your summary should be no more than 50% of the original. Simple, basic things like that. But finding key points, that's an important skill. That's a reading skill. Don't get me wrong. I think that's incredibly important. That I still teach. I still think I should teach it. But creating the summary, I think that's going to be one of those skills that you don't have, you just don't need as much. And part of, it's a, I don't know. I also keep thinking like Google Maps and things like that, which, I never had growing up. And so I learned how to figure out which way is north, which way was, that kind of stuff. And I learned how to read real maps, and that's all cool and stuff. But my boys, they can barely go anywhere without Google Maps. They just, what?
We used to have this thing called an atlas.
Yeah. I've used them.
Yeah, I've memorized pages out of them.
Before the kids were born, my wife and I
I also could use road signs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a lot of Google Maps people can't.
My wife and I took a trip before the boys were ever a twinkle in my eye, and I forget how many states we hit, but we had done this huge loop down into Texas and then back up and around, and got most of the southern Midwest states. And we had an atlas with us. That's all.
That's the page.
Sweet.
Another page down. I've got a plan for the next page because I think this was meant to start off on the next page, really.
Okay.
The next page is 4 panels of them crawling through pipes, right?
I don't remember. I'll have to pull it up.
That's actually why I had a little bit of a concern. I'm like, what am I going to do? We can't literally have a page. Like, we have to have something going on in there. There's no action. And this is what? 7th page I'm starting?
Hold on.
That's almost a half a comic book.
Nope.
Or a quarter of a comic book. Third of a comic book? Yeah, a third of a comic book.
It's something.
Well, I mean, 3 times 7 is 21, and generally 22 pages a comic book to 24, so could be 1/4, it could be 1/3, right?
Yeah.
Unless my math is off. We all know my math is flawed.
All right. I just got to find my stupid document.
I thought it was a Google Doc. That's what I opened.
Yeah, it is a Google Doc. I just have like 30 of them open, and
Oh,
you know, I don't like closing things. I just. So now
yeah, I tend to keep mine open as well.
Where's out there? Plus, I got 2 screens going. Just.
Hey, when we talked last time, you gave me the impression that he was just going to the end of that tunnel and then he was going to be in a different part. But from what I read, it looks like that tunnel keeps getting smaller. And there is more stuff in that tunnel.
Okay. I thought you had already. Didn't you already plan out the?
Well, I was messing around, but I hadn't read that page yet, so I didn't know.
Oh,
I had I think a picture of him kind of at the end of the tunnel, but it was like it went from that crawling sideways one to the end of the tunnel, and that script says there's 4 panels with him in the tunnel getting smaller and smaller, which that would be happening between where he starts to crawl, which is the last panel that I just finished, and the end of that tunnel, right?
okay.
Unless I'm mistaken. I could be mistaken.
I have way too many.
That's kind of what I was asking, or why I was asking, because maybe you've changed something since I read it, or.
So you're on page.
Okay.
Yeah, you have massive going through the crawl.
Yeah, page 7, 4 panels.
Yeah, forced perspective of rats running, and then at the edge of the sewers, and then page 8, we have them in the sewer.
Right, but this page has him going through the crawl and then him having to squeeze through pipes and wires, creepy crawly things.
Right, because you had kind of drawn that.
And then, well, I actually. Where's the page? I only drew.
Maybe I'm having premonitions of the future. I seem to recall one of them kind of standing on the edge.
Well, he wasn't standing, he was sitting on the edge.
Whatever.
Well, first of all, that is a difference, and
I agree.
And second of all, if he's literally having to squeeze through the tunnel,
well,
the original, this was the page that I started for the one that I just finished.
Right.
This stuff is all gone because it's in the floor. This stuff, this got pushed to the other page, and then we didn't do this instead because this was sideways, and then we did this.
Uh-huh.
The only thing else I have is
Yeah.
this. That's one picture of him crawling out of the tunnel.
Well,
That's not so close that he's trying to squeeze through, though.
Yeah,
which is why I asked.
The way I figure it, different parts of the building are going to have wider and narrower spots, like where pipes have to run through.
But they're access tunnels, right?
Right. So that's why I was worried about that. And page 7 has one of the.
So right now I'm just trying to figure out what I'm drawing for the next page, so that I can lay it out. If he's crawling through the tunnels, and that's more than just climbing down the ladder and showing him sideways, then yeah, it's not just for the sake of getting on the same page, though I know what I'm doing. And
Well, hold on a second while I split my screen so it's a little bit easier to talk to you and see the thing. I think a good argument can be made that panel 1 from page 7 is now on page 6, I think. Or is on the previous page, however you look at it. So we're left with panel 2, 3, and 4. And panel 4 would have been, that's based off of the one that you just showed me, where he's at the opening. Yeah, and the only thing that I find really cool about that page, I kind of like the idea of panel 3 because it had that forced perspective, making the rats look huge, and him behind them, kind of as they're running out front. But it's not necessary. I mean, I'm just trying to show progression from point A to point B, so that. But we can skip part of it if you want. We have panels. Like, I don't care.
well, it's not all right. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anything about what you've got, except for that we're on the 7th page. That pretty soon we better have some action, or people are not going to like it.
Page 8, we got a monster and then a fight. Yeah, page 8 and 9 are a bit of a fight. 10 is a full page. I was kind of channeling my inner Conan on that image in my brain for page 10.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, well, I really do like that tab feature, though, on Google Docs. Like, there's a thing I use called Live Binders for my classroom where I keep my notes. And I've always liked it because it's built like an online binder, like with tabs. And so you can shrink stuff. But unless you want to pay, you only get so many of them. And they only go so far. Like, you can only have so many subtabs. I've yet to run into a limit on Google Docs as to how many subtabs I can have. And I just find it incredibly useful for organizing my stuff. Yeah, Mark, I agree with you on both. Mark said it. Mark came back to the argument. He said, okay, this is probably my last word from pedantic Mark tonight on the subject. When he said, you still taught key points. It got me thinking. It seems to me there is room for teaching key skills involved in summarization, such as key points, while de-emphasizing a full summary. But again, I'm still in formation. And Mark, that's kind of where I am too. It's just that I know how it's going to be tested. And that's the annoying part. We're going to test in a way where they have to do the full summary, even though most people for most jobs are never going to have to worry too much about it. And that makes it hard to motivate students to do it, especially when what they really need are those key skills like finding key points, recognizing, hey, that's important. So, yeah, Mark, exactly. It's really my complaint was more about testing, not keeping up with the technological realities of today. But again, all of education is always playing catch up to that, so I guess it shouldn't be all that surprising. Okay, I gotta take my mid-stream stretch. We need to come up with a pithy little. If it's the 𝕄𝔸𝕊𝔋𝕀𝔽𝔽 pub, it's got to have restrooms. So we need a name for that, because in case anyone wants to know, that's what the midstream stretch is for. Sorry. But anyway, I'll be back.
So Marky's still got some life left in you tonight, huh?
And I'm back. Yeah, Mark does have some life back in him. He's hanging out.
Well, I said left in him, but maybe it's back in him. Maybe he got rejuvenated in some way.
It's been a while since we've talked with Mark. Or at least since I've talked with Mark. Although he was commenting a little bit on Slack, because that stupid publisher and their stupid basically their call for propaganda to wallow in their grief, and it's just whatever. It's not my fight to fix. I would just rather have stories of hope and uh, optimism more often than uh, you know, Chicken Little stories. So. Huh. Mark said his nephew took his bed that he was getting rid of, so he has to get his other bedroom ready for him to sleep in and clean up the empty one. I've been listening and breaking for comments while working.
Oh yeah.
See? Yeah,
Well, I'm glad he has some time, even if he has to break for comments. I see him once a night. Usually we play Wordle, but that's not generally a long.
I had started to play that, and then I just stopped.
Well, we play it and basically post how long it took and like how many guesses we got it in, and then we show a screen cap. But we play together, not against each other. So I mean, it's not like competition or anything. And I'm sure if you wanted to jump in, you could.
Yeah. No, it's just the reason why I stopped more than anything was I have a real bad habit of, all the tricks they use to keep you kind of sucked in and on the screen. Those things work on me like nobody's business, and I have to. It's kind of like an addict thing. Like I know that I will waste a day playing a stupid game.
Wordle only has 5 chances.
Yeah.
So it's like a 10-minute thing, or maybe.
Yeah, but then I would just play another game. At least the version I have, you can lose and then you play another game. and I would play and play and play and play and.
Oh, I don't do that. I just I have Word Womp, and I'll do that a little bit, but I'll do that until I make a couple of complete. Like if I complete all the words until one full round is over, and they make you hold on for the advertisement, then I'm done. It generally just gets my juices flowing, and then I write.
That's just
I only use it. I don't abuse it.
Well, I'm bad. Like YouTube Shorts or the Facebook Reels.
Yeah, that shit sucks you in.
Oh my gosh! I'm the best I can do is just not ever click on one.
Yeah, it's hard. Like during political season.
I have a hard time with any of it.
Well, for me, it's only hard really when there's a whole bunch of shit going on and Facebook's not letting you express it, like the shit that is still going on with 𝕄𝔸𝕊𝔋𝕀𝔽𝔽. Like I feel they need a voice, and I try my best to share whatever they're sharing, because they're using either YouTube or X or whatever to get the word out, and I try to share it to get the word out too, because the stuff that's going on in those devastated places is just not right.
I agree.
Not to cut you off.
Well, my only hope for those kinds of things are that, and it's not fast enough, but it's the best I think we have, the election will help. The results of the election will end up helping that kind of thing. So, we'll see.
Yeah. That's disturbing too, because of what the administration that's current is actually doing with their last days.
Well,
really devastating.
But I understand why people on the left are scared because.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about what physically is being done, or what literally is being done.
Right.
Like not people saying that they're not going to have sex because they're protesting in the next 4 years. I'm all about that. Hey, if you don't want to have sex and multiply and reproduce more people like that, then I'm good.
I'm simply saying if like I fully believe conservatives were targeted by the IRS. I fully believe conservatives have been targeted, or at least Trump people. They had things withheld from them by FEMA. Like there are certain things that I fully believe have happened, and they tend to affect negatively conservatives. Okay, so I see that, and I'm happy that conservatives or a more conservative leaning president is going to be in office so that kind of stuff stops. But if you're on the left, I can understand being scared because if the supposed good guys did this, what conservatives say, what are the bad guys going to do? So, and I mean, and I use good and bad facetiously, but that's if my team was willing to do X, what is the opponent's team willing to do? And so if you're in that kind of tribalistic view of the world, I can understand being scared. When Biden first came to office, I was worried about a lot of things. I was hopeful I would be wrong about my worries, which is the weirdest thing I've never, and I've seen it on both parties, where they want bad things just to prove that they were right. It's like, no, I'd rather be wrong. I want to be wrong. Let me be wrong. So, I guess I'm hopeful that the next administration will care more about Americans versus foreign countries, that kind of thing. But we'll see. It's also bad that any government has that much. It shouldn't affect us that much. Oh, it's like Die Hard. So, after the power came on, I had time to watch episode 3 of Skeleton Crew. And yep, still enjoyed it. So,
first one was enough for me.
Oh, okay.
First of all, the whole time I'm watching the episode, the first thing that comes to mind is, we were just talking about how if you could do this without having spaceships or whatever, then it's not sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it's not sci-fi because it's basically kids in school. You've got basically buses except for their trams, and and it ends basically like Goonies except for they're on the boat. Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing,
a lot of people
nothing new, nothing, So I picked up watching Fallout. I've been watching that as I've been working out. So
it's not bad. There were parts of Fallout that I thought were I enjoyed it enough. I would watch season 2.
Well, people that play the game says that it's incredibly accurate for the game. And I
Uh,
guess that would be important if, that's your thing. I thought it was a little bit unnecessarily gory at the beginning, but whatever. I mean, it's a small thing.
there were, well, uh, yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that they do in Fallout, um,
I'm only on like the third episode, so
right? There were a couple things my boys were like, "That's wildly inaccurate." Okay, I don't know. Like there's this one thing. Eventually, you'll see it looks kind of like a mutated axolotl, and they're like, "If that's what that's supposed to be, that's not what those look like." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. It's supposed to be a big giant monster thing. It's a big giant monster thing."
the thing that comes out of the water.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I didn't play the game, and I don't play those games. But like
yeah. My
if
boys
I,
have. That's all.
yeah, well, mine have as well. Uh, but if they, I was just gonna say, like if they had been around and playing it, then I would have probably watched certain scenes. Because I'll watch a video game for a little bit, but I have no interest in playing it and trying to beat levels. And nowadays, most of the video games that I see that are coming out, they're not meant to be beat anyway. So you're shoveling money after money after money, and you can't win. It's just basically you're paying for new boxing gloves in a boxing match.
You're,
like
you're
World
buying
of
new
Tanks
outfits for Barbie dress up.
Yeah, except for Barbie's got guns.
I know, but I mean, I have watched my boys beg for. Can I get this downloadable content? It'll give me 17 more skins. It was like, so you're playing Barbie dress up.
Yeah, our oldest son he's spent so much money. Like, so he's using my account instead of creating his own account. I told him years and years ago, create your own account because I'm not always going to do it, But then he's keeping adding stuff and adding stuff. So I get the emails every time he adds something and every time he pays for something. So I've been kind of saving those emails because eventually he's going to be coming back crying that he's broken, and I'm going to show him where all his money went. Because it's $60 a pop, and he could probably spend $60 a month. Like before that game. Hold on.
Yeah.
Tipper.
Big tipper.
Yeah, before those games came out, it was $50 to get a game that he would play till he beat it.
Yeah.
Then he would play it till he beat it on difficulty, and there would be secret stages and this and that. And then, like now, I'm like, so you're not even beating it. You've been putting money into World of Tanks for 10 years.
They'll never sponsor you now.
Oh, I don't even care. But that's not necessarily true with those guys. But
I know.
But yeah, like I'm not saying that it's not a fun game for those who enjoy it. Obviously, it is because they're spending fucking money hand over fist. But he's been spending money on playing that same exact game for over 10 years, and like whoever invented that marketing ploy for kids,
Yeah.
they were a genius or completely evil or both.
See, that's one of the.
That's paying off for him in spades.
Yeah, I don't. I get a lot of anxiety about just consuming. so like video games and stuff, it's hard for me to like. You've got to have a compelling story um, to make me want to go through. Like I'm really not there normally for gameplay. I'm really there for story. That's really my number one draw. So like the last game that I really got into was BioShock because I really liked the story. Um, the stories of Fallout are kind of neat, but the play is I don't know. It's not for me. I get kind of annoyed when you have these big guns that don't kill things instantaneously. It's the same argument I have about the Star Wars games. If you have a lightsaber, it should cut through damn near anything. And none of this stuff.
Except another lightsaber, right?
Right. I mean, there are a couple things that can slow it down. But for the
You're
most
saying
part,
slow it down, but not cut through it. The only thing that I've seen it not be able to cut through is another lightsaber.
oh, there's a metal that like shorts them out. It's rare, but yeah, they use.
Yeah, they would have to invent that, just like kryptonite.
Well, yeah. It's from Legends, I think, but then it popped up in canon now because of the Acolyte, because the guy had a helmet made out of it, so he would headbutt lightsabers. And that's another problem. See, this is about consistency. This is how you know that Acolyte was terribly written. Because if it had been consistent, that would not have mattered that much. Because they started to show the Jedi fighting without using lightsabers very often because they're Jedi, and that's how it should be. I was like this when they started doing that. I thought it was great. I love lightsabers. I think they're cool, but I also think that if you really think about what the Jedi do and their telekinetic abilities and whatnot, they should not be using lightsabers very often. Especially when you start introducing things like with Kylo Ren, where he stopped a blaster bolt in midair. Like you can do that. You don't need a lot of weapons, and if you're not killing things, if that's not your goal, you should rarely need to use your lightsaber. So when they're fighting this guy that shorts out their lightsaber, they should have been better prepared. Which, by the way, would actually make an interesting short story for a Star Wars thing. The lightsaber duelist that has to learn. That's not what you're there for. You're there for the Force. Learn to use the Force. So, speaking of consistency, this is how I know that my novel will need at least another draft. Because as I'm working on the growlery and the stuff that's going on around there, I'm like, if you look at the very beginning where I start mentioning this versus how I really think it should work, those are not the same thing. It's like one of those things you notice on television shows that, hey, they've changed that since the first season, that kind of thing. And yeah, I got to go back through and I got to give a pass just for that section, like how that's going to work. What bothers me about that is I'm worried you or Jake are going to get confused. But at least if I know about it ahead of time, I can go, yeah, that's foreseen. That'll be draft 2.
Got to figure out how much I can get away with
Okay.
before I throw it into shadow, because I want him. Because if he's crawling through the sewers, tunnels, whatever,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a whole lot of light. So I want it to be like,
So it's blue. Isn't that what they normally do? They on TV, you know. If it's night, it's blue.
well, yeah, if it's night,
I'm just
generally you're outside. I'm trying to figure out how much I can disappear into shadow, as well as throwing shadow underneath of him, and pretty much like should look almost like he's just crawling through the shadows. So like I might be able to do hanging pipes and wires and stuff to give the idea of perspective.
well, you can also have like seams or cracks where light would come through, because if this is a crawl space, you know, every once in a while there'd be an
But
access.
isn't it underneath of a city that's enclosed?
Well,
So I guess that's where my logic always kicks in and goes, but yeah, that's bullshit. So,
well, it's an access point, so you have to get to the part where it's underneath.
well, yeah, and you could go, well, it's an access tunnel, so they have lights, you know,
Or yeah, you can
It-
put lights there.
it lights up. But then you would think that the animals that live in the dark would scurry when the light hit.
Well, if you notice it, on that page, they are running away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not until page 8 where we see something to say, this looks tasty.
Then probably you should mention somewhere in this page that the safety lights kick on or something like that, which would make sense why it's not as dark as I left it off on the page before. Because when you're saying the crawl, maybe there's safety lights in the crawl or something. coughing in high def.
Yeah, well. Yeah, it's kind of funny because she's been sick for a couple days. Like they sent her home today.
I've been sick a lot lately, huh?
Yeah, and this morning though, like she'd had yesterday and the day before, I think she had fevers over 100 degrees and couldn't get them to come down. But hey, when the heat went off and we were stuck in a frozen house,
Cooled it off a little bit, huh?
it did. It was weird. Her temp came right down. Wow.
Motherfucker, if I had known all I needed to do was dump a fucking tub of ice in bed,
Yeah, pass on that.
you'd been cured already.
I have a feeling it's creeping back up though. Oh, but yeah, I was like, yeah. This morning, I remember I went down to let the dog out, and I still hadn't gotten any notification that we had a cancellation yet. So, let the dog out. I'm walking around barefoot, and it didn't take long. Man, my feet were hurting. It was so cold. When I saw that we had a cancellation, I crawled into bed. It's just freezing. Terrible. I hate being cold. I was just happy the pipes didn't freeze.
Yep. I'm glad that the pipes didn't freeze on you guys too. Joe's brother used to have a pet.
What?
This is from memory, not from reference. Didn't have time to look up a reference. I mean, this is a little bit from memory of a reference. There was a reference that I had in mind that I was going to use to make him crawling out of the tunnel. Then I read that he's supposed to be crawling through the tunnel. Can't very well do that, dude. Must make an adjustment. Guess who's woke up from their nap?
What?
That would be him.
And he has to get ready to tell you it's about time.
Yeah, right. He woke up just in time to tell me it's time.
It's a little early for that yet. Yeah.
Ooh. Can't help it, I start drawing this character and I don't want to stop and move on to the next panel. Which I really should, because I'm not going to get the layout done doing it this way. And this is supposed to be just an idea so that I can expand on it later. And I'm turning it into a splash page, just so you know.
Okay.
That wasn't literal. I'm being facetious because I just not stopping.
Oh, yeah?
Of course, there's only supposed to be 4 panels, so that's not even huge for a panel.
Have you ever read Something Wicked This Way Comes?
I don't know if I've actually finished it. I started it a long time ago.
I was
Ray
looking at,
Bradbury, right?
yeah, I was looking at the introduction of it, or not the introduction, but the beginning of it. I wanted to see how it started. I wanted to see, like, I was pretty certain it was a good inspiration piece, and so I went back. I was looking at it, and it's just kind of funny because, like, there's definitely something to the voice that is really inviting, I think. But then there are some of the things which just like his naming of things just seems a little obvious or on the nose. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that I was kind of. I find it interesting parts of it I just really enjoyed, and then other parts I was like, could have worked a little bit more on this. And then I'm thinking, he sold a hell of a lot more than I ever have. So.
And also, what he was writing, nobody else was at the time. So, what you think of as, old or has been done, it wasn't in his time.
Yeah, there's part of that.
Might have been less, some of it less on the nose, if in time period,
That's one of the things I've often thought about with reading, and like, you remember the Aragon series or Aragon? It's Aragon, right?
Aragon, yeah.
Yeah. And
Star Wars with Dragons.
Oh yeah, like I read that, I was like, this is just it's been done so many times.
Well, yeah, it's literally Star Wars with dragons. In the beginning, Princess sends the dragon egg away from those who, wanted the Death Star plans. I mean,
yeah. And when I first read that, I was pissy and I felt cheated and whatever. Then later on, I got to thinking, well, that's because I've seen this done over and over and over again. And if you haven't seen it done, then all right, it's an example of that story. And I thought that's kind of an interesting thing that some novels can bring people in that weren't in the genre before, for whatever reason. And if those books bring you into the genre, they're going to be good to you as a reader, but they're not necessarily going to be good to more experienced readers. But hopefully you'll branch off and find those other books. But it is an interesting, what's good versus what's bad. It's kind of about what have you experienced before. And sometimes, when you're talking about Ray Bradbury, maybe it's the naming stuff is, if other people have copied him enough to where I've seen it, and therefore when I see the original, I'm like, yeah, I've seen this before.
Right.
It's not
like
because
just old and tired and cliche, but it wasn't in 1960.
Right. So, it's one of those things. It's just kind of interesting that, when you read something, and I never quite I always thought it was kind of like about maturity of the reader and blah blah blah, but no, it's really just about what kind of experiences you've had. I mean, it can be about maturity, but it's more general. It's just what have you experienced. So some of the stuff, like when people don't like The Great Gatsby, and I think it's like one of the greatest things ever. it could just be taste. It could be where you are in your life. It could be your experiences. And I know my experiences when it comes to Gatsby. A lot of it's because I think, at least, Fitzgerald's sense of being an outsider looking in and knowing about money but not having it was a lot more like where I grew up, where I could see the lake. Heck, I could even get my boat to the lake, but I didn't live on the lake, and there was a huge difference there. And so some of that classism kind of appealed to me. The romanticism of it kind of appealed to me. And I really think it has to do with where I grew up more than the book itself. Although, again, there are things in the book that I think, from a writing standpoint, are just stunning. But it doesn't. I didn't think that when I first read it when I was 17. I that's only because I've loved it, looked at it, and explored it. So, some of those books that we just think are the bee's knees, or stories, movies, whatever, aren't necessarily going to hold up, I guess. Did you ever watch 28 Days Later?
Yeah.
So, I thought 28 Days Later was, for a zombie film especially, that was like one of the best, if not the best.
Did you like the comic
The comic?
that it's based on?
No. I didn't know it was based on one. Wait, so The Walking Dead ripped off a movie which was based off of another comic book?
Funny how that works.
The Walking Dead straight up ripped off the opening of 28 Days Later.
Have you read The Walking Dead, or are you talking about the show?
I've read this part in The Walking Dead. I've read all the Walking Dead comics. I've started them now. But the thing where he gets hurt and winds up in a hospital and wakes up, that's 28 Days Later. I mean, it's a different accident, but it's the same thing. Guy gets hurt, wakes up from a coma in a hospital. That's overrun with zombies. And I get that 28 Days Later isn't technically zombies, but whatever. And I thought 28 Weeks Later was my biggest complaint about 28 Weeks Later was that it doesn't really push the boundaries. So it's still good. It's just kind of more of the same. So you can just watch the first one. What?
Yes, crowd service.
Okay. But now
that's what it is. I mean, that's why it's more of the same, because it's crowd service.
Okay. But with 28 years later, I don't understand how it's going to work out. So I'm desperately interested to see how they work that out, because I don't understand what they said at the end of 28 Weeks Later. Made it seem like, yeah, that's the end of canon. So I want to know how they fix that. But I am very excited for this movie. It's one of the most I have I want to see this, because I mean, if they pull it off, it's going to be great. So, and it should be something a little bit different, because it's more about I mean, how did we adapt, I guess. And I'm very interested in seeing that. So when I saw the trailer dropped, I was like, huh. I'd say for a layout, you're getting this one done pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting some ideas down on the page anyway.
Well, I've seen you take an entire stream or more just getting ideas on the page. So,
Yeah.
like these are pretty strongly rendered and everything. Like and this is the second half of the show, so you already spent all that time on the previous page. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yes, I'm drawing looser to try to get the ideas down, but I'm also trying to come up with a lighting scenario. I really like this kind of creepy looking pose here. Looks like he's creeping up on something. He's hunting something. So I think there needs to be some sound effects that alert him to something up ahead, so that this pose can be there. So like he could be the edge of the sewer. So that he looks like he's in beast mood, because that's what we want, right? We want to get him set in beast mood.
I'm going to start putting in comments, putting up on screen about. I don't know if you ever watched the videos where they never talk, but they make some kind of food. What country are you watching this from? Leave a comment and then.
Oh, they do that with building cabins and stuff too.
Yeah, yeah.
I like to watch them, like craft videos, kind of.
Thanks, Mark. It was great hanging out with you too.
Yeah, man. We're about at that point, anyway.
Yeah, I've been putting the obligatory. Well, they're not really obligatory, but like, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever, that kind of thing.
Thanks for watching. That's that's what I try to say.
I also have that. Thank you to everyone who stopped by. It always makes for a great time to have some fun discussions. I guess I did not specifically say here. I'll have that in there.
We really appreciate you guys watching us, and we really appreciate comments to let us know if you like the content.
Although Mark's throwing up gang signs now, so.
Well, Mark's gangster. He lives in Virginia.
Oh, it's one of those people. What do they call them? Virginians?
Unless you're in John Carter, then they just call you Virginia.
Oh, now Mark's trying to play like it's some kind of Hawaiian sign.
So he's a Hawaiian gang member. He's a Hawaiian gangster.
Now he's throwing up another gang sign. The first one was really Spider-Man doing his thing. And then,
it's all good until he's like, I'll get you next time, catch it. Yes, I know he was.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, Mark's the Hawaiian thug.
It's kind of like Hawaiian Punch, but it's who throws it.
He's the crown prince of pineapples. Ciao, Mark.
Now let's see if I can be able to catch the energy of that pose when it comes time to draw the page. So, with what I had that you said inspired you, and this basic layout and this basic layout, so that would be first, and then the other one would be after this, right? So this would have to move up there or have its own 3 tiers. So what's the 4th panel?
It was just him reaching the end. So
I'm just saying, like, what's the 4th panel now?
Yeah, that original, I was trying to get to the part. So, I mean, technically, you could probably keep it not like what you have it. And we could just move on. The only thing I would do if you're going to do that would be, no, I guess I wouldn't do that. So, yeah, I mean, you could do, you can keep, we could shrink those things down. I don't care.
I could definitely figure something out with it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess it's that time, and it's time for me to take my midstream break.
Your end stream.
Yeah, same thing. Stream's a stream. All right, so everyone that watched, thanks for watching. Everyone that likes, subscribe, thanks for liking and subscribing and following and commenting. That's mostly Mark, but it was also
Hey, we had Turtles. We had Creative Faye.
Turtles and Creative Faye. Turtles didn't
Yeah.
say much, did he? He just said hello.
Hey, that's more.
No, I'm just saying, like, we're trying to name the people off, but
Yeah.
that's why I didn't remember, because he only said hello. So, but yeah. Anyway, good night. God bless. Much love.